Welcome to Falling into 40 with Bailey and Jessica.
Hey there, welcome back to Falling into 40. Today, Bailey and I are going to dive into the very important topic that affects millions of people. Us, you guys, everybody. Mental health and anxiety. Sometimes a taboo topic and sometimes not. It seems like lately that everybody chimes in when they hear the word anxiety or the words mental health. So we're going to talk about what anxiety is, how it can impact our lives, and most importantly, how we can nurture our mental health and build resilience and know that we don't have to live in an anxious state all the time. So we are glad you're here.
It is a topic that I think, especially in this season, needs to be talked about and voiced. And like you said, everybody has an opinion on it and a way they feel about it. But have you noticed in this season, has your anxiety worsened, changed, gotten better? Are you better at coping? Like, what do you notice about anxiety during this season that maybe is different from when we were younger?
I definitely feel in this season that there is an increased amount of anxiety. Now, I don't know that it's always warranted, if that makes sense. I know that sometimes we can't control that feeling of the heaviness on our chest and the, not being able to feel at ease or at peace.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that some days and that sometimes we are in a season where it is debilitating, but I feel like the anxiety that I feel during this season is something that I'm not necessarily doing the best that I can to take care of those feelings and that feeling of overwhelmingness. And I mean that because a lot of it comes from added stress that I've created in my life.
It's almost a different kind of anxiety now. Like before it was busyness, parenting young kids, and now that has changed to like almost a deeper sense of anxiety, and I feel it more physically now than I have in the past. Like I don't sleep, I don't eat well, things like that, more so now than when I was younger, where I was anxious and worried a lot, but it didn't affect me physically as much as I think that it does now.
I think that I feel exactly like you do. And I take anxiety very seriously, so I don't want anybody to think that I don't. But I think that for me, when I look at social media and, it used to be there was just like one platform, but now there's so many different platforms of social media. And if you're not watching news on the television, look, I'm showing my age, television on TV or whatever you're watching it on.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting the news from social media or the things that pop up on your phone, the notifications, and being plugged in all the time to all of those things, it increases anxiety. And it's almost like your mind, or my mind, never stops because of it. So it feels like the world has come to this point, and people have come a long way in a lot of ways, and it's wonderful, but it feels like the world almost promotes anxiety. Everybody has anxiety. Everybody has triggers. Everybody's got some kind of disorder, but we're not doing anything to help ourselves and to get better. I still read the notifications, or, I don't unplug. And I think those are ways that I don't help myself. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I totally agree. And you and I have talked about this before. In my life, I don't think I've ever truly, unless it's gotten to a pretty deep, dark point, which it has in my past, truly looked at it in the face and thought, you know what? I need to do something about this. You just, put a Band-Aid on whatever's happening to make it better to get through the next day. And then you put another Band-Aid on to get through the next day. Mm-hmm. And especially with how busy our lives are, taking the time to stop and cope with whatever you're going through emotionally or mentally is something I think as women our age, with our age of kids and the things that we deal with on a daily basis, it's very easy for us just to kind of slap a quick fix on it and move on until when I lay down to go to sleep and it all goes and I start going through mentally all the million things I have to worry about, then it starts to become overwhelming. When actually, there are so many ways you can cope, in ways I know I can cope with it and things I know I can do to help fix it. But again, it's very easy to not do those things until you get to the point where you have to.
And we have both been in positions where we have gotten to a point where we didn't take care of ourselves and we ended up in a bad place. And I can say that's a really, really dark place, and it's a hard place. It's a lonely place. And unless you've experienced it, it's easy to look at it as an outsider and say, oh, so-and-so's really flipped out or lost their marbles, and it's really not funny, because those are places that nobody wants to be. And I don't care who you are. If you've been in that place, I am so sorry, because I feel you. I know and understand truly just the darkness that you feel, just how lonely, and a lot of times shame comes with that. And you can't believe that you've gotten down to a point so low that you just, it's taken over your life. And it doesn't always affect people in that profound way. It can be just like you and I talking about going to sleep at night, and it's all of the things that we didn't get done, or the things that we need to get up and do to make sure that everything's ready for the next day. But it can, to me, checking in with myself and saying, number one, are you being rational? Are you dying? Is your kid going to die? Is it an emergency? And then the things that are truly weighing on us and weighing on our hearts, why are we not just stopping and taking those as a Christian? I should be going straight to the Lord with those. And by not doing that, it just snowballs, and I'm not in peace. I have no peace in my life if I'm not doing that. And that's something that has to be practiced every single day.
Absolutely. And I've said this before. I need "be still" tattooed on my forehead, because I have a lot of difficulty with just praying, letting it go, and being still, and not feeling like I have to immediately fix it, which then gets my anxiety ramped up and starts the whole spiral all over again. And, and it doesn't, for me, when I got to the point where I knew I had reached my breaking point, it really, if you really looked at it from an outsider's perspective, the tip of the iceberg really wasn't something that was, like you said, life or death, but it was just that last thing that made me realize that, okay, this is it. This is something that I need to take care of. But like you said, it's all very important to keep a hold on, or else you will find yourself at that point. And so what are some things that you do to cope when you are kind of feeling all of that? When you're feeling like, kind of like you said you check yourself. Well, what are some of the do you have strategies or things that you have done to check yourself?
So, one of the things that I just mentioned a minute ago about giving it to God and giving it to the Lord was brought up in our Bible study on Sunday, and this is we just talked about how there is anxiety. We live in a fast-paced world, and my struggles are not your struggles, and my fears are not your fears, and that's okay. They're yours. You get to own them, but you also don't need to hold on to them. And so I don't know that there are things that I do, but I'm still learning, and I feel like this is probably going to be an ongoing battle for the rest of my life personally. I shared with the group on Sunday, I said, I can remember being 5 years old, going to sleep at night and not wanting to go to sleep, staring at the door, not wanting to close my eyes because I was always afraid that someone was going to break in our home. And there's I have no, there's nothing to read into there except that I really did. I had this fear, this overwhelming fear. And I would try to hold my eyes open for as long as I could. And I wouldn't turn over. I would face the door. And, I would ultimately end up falling asleep. But I feel like it started very young. And that was before there was social media and stuff. So I feel like I've definitely had anxiety and felt it for a long time before I could do something about it. Now that I know what it is, and I've dealt with letting my mental health go, and of course coping with it by drinking alcohol and trying to numb all of those feelings and not deal with them. Well, that got me into a very, very dark place. So healthily, I need to daily give every single worry away and just speak it out, not let it resonate in my soul. And I also think journaling is a great idea. And there's even there's breathing exercises. I know I can hold my breath, take a big deep breath and fill my lungs up and let it go. And while I'm doing that, check myself and say, are you being rational? Is this just a feeling? It's okay to have the feeling, but is your feeling, is it real? Like, is it real like the desk is real? No, it's not. And so that emotion is fleeting and it will go. But I have to calm down. I have to really rein in and work on self-control is a big thing with anxiety to me, and knowing that I can't be impulsive, that I can't react immediately. I have to just work through it right then and not let it just get out of control. You've got to be careful too if you have a friend that feeds that anxiety. That can be a very bad thing for somebody that has a tendency to worry. Instead of, hey, I understand how you're feeling. Take a deep breath. Work through it. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. I think that's important to know. Yes, absolutely. There are people that can heighten it, and then there are people that can tame it a little bit, and I think that's important too. I think this is the perfect time for me to talk about something that you gave me that has really helped. So 2022 was like a pretty rough year for me and for some things personally. And so Jessica actually in October of 22 gave me this book. It's called Fighting Words by Ellie Holcomb. And it's a devotional, just, that it does so many things, so many words, calm anxiety, so many times where you're feeling kind of defeated. And I will say, there was so often I woke up in the morning and turned to the day that I was on, and it spoke to almost directly what I was going through or what I was feeling. And so it was such a light during a time that I had some difficult feelings and some anxiety. So this Fighting Words, yeah, it's awesome. And I'll still open it from time to time when I'm needing a little boost. And it does just help you with that whole, I'm going to pray about it, let it go, and give it up to the Lord, because for me that is something I do struggle with, is letting it go. Once I've prayed about it and it's out there and I've spoken it, letting it go and just letting it be fixed, or letting it fix itself, or whatever happens.
That takes so much practice. I mean, it's every day,
Mm-hmm.
There's something on our minds constantly. And just to be able to say, okay, I'm not going to do this today. I'm going to have a good day. I'm going to give this up. It's not mine to carry. I can't do anything about it. It's out of my control. And if it's something that we can fix, then we can, if it's in our control, then there you go. There's your answer.
Yeah. Yeah. At 3 a.m., I'm not going to be able to fix it. So typically that's whenever I'm at my heightened point, and I need to just learn, you're not fixing anything at 3 o'clock in the morning. So what are you doing?
Yeah. You're hurting your physical health at that point.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be tired the next day. And that's what I think a lot of women, I know not all women, but they're more often than not, women wake up in the middle of the night to do something, or, to something they don't want to forget that they suddenly remembered, like setting the meat out so that they could, anything. That's not a great example.
It's true.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Bailey, how do you have any thoughts on seeking help for when it is out of control? Like, what is this is something that people don't like to talk about.
So, and it is something that probably at one point in my life I didn't care to talk about. But I think it's so important not to let yourself get to the point where you feel like it's too much, because at that point you are not thinking rationally, and it can cause either physical ailments or things emotionally to get out of control. So I do think, even though I at times, especially because I hold it all in, I bury it so deep, but I can make it to where my pride will try to outrun the anxiety, to the point where then, like I said, I have gotten to the point where I felt so out of control, I truly didn't know what to do. And thankfully, I had enough great people in my life that helped me work through that. And again, without that, I probably wouldn't be where I am today and wouldn't have gotten on the other side of it the way that I have. But yes, I think that is the key, is burying your pride. And there's so many prideful people, and it's not a bad thing to be prideful, like not want to show so too much emotion or anything like that. That's just kind of how I am. And so, yeah, I think it's important. I think that being able to either seek help, find a therapist to talk to, or, again, coping mechanisms, or people in your church or your pastor, somebody to help you before you get to that point. And so for me, it was almost a pride thing. And I feel like a lot of people might be similar in that way, where you don't want to say, I'm having trouble. Can you help me? That's really a difficult thing for a lot of people to say.
Yes, I think you are completely 100% accurate. People think the common misconception is that if you seek help, you are weak. And that is not true. It is, you are absolutely very smart for getting on top of it and seeking that help, because you don't want to end up in a spot where you have spiraled out of control and gotten to a place where you are completely numb, or you feel like you're in a hole that you can't climb out of. That's a scary spot. And it happens. It happens a lot. And I don't know. I also think that here we are, 2024. How much, as a teacher, as two former educators, what do you think? How much of an increase did you see throughout your career of kids that had a lot of anxiety? Did it increase dramatically or decrease?
So I started teaching in 2008, and I can honestly tell you that really wasn't something when I started teaching. Yes, I worried about certain students, and they were dealing with big things because kids deal with big things a lot. But it wasn't something that was so widespread up until probably about my last 5 years of teaching, 4 to 5 years of teaching. That's when we started truly getting to where kids were having major anxiety. And some of it was big feelings and feeling those big feelings, and not knowing, because of their age and their immaturity, how to deal with those big feelings. So there was some acting out and things like that. But also even like how much pressure these kids felt, because academic expectations changed so much from when I started teaching till in my last few years of teaching, that they were feeling a lot of pressure academically at such a young age that they were starting to feel those anxious feelings. And again, I think pressures like that, and kind of like you said, their parents on social media, different things on the news, their parents are saying different things and worried about different things at home. And so that was then resonating. Again, I think anxiety happens at all ages and has over time, but I think truly in our current age, in this digital age and everything, I think it is much more widespread, and of course it's out there more. But yes, I saw a big increase in anxiety at a much younger age. And I'm talking, I taught second and third grade, so we're 7 to 9-year-olds. Yes, a big increase. And my own personal children, I've noticed a difference in anxiety and those types of things with even my kids at home, that I can't remember. I know I was worried as a child and had some anxious feelings, but I can't remember feeling it to that depth over some of the things that my kids are anxious about. I don't feel like that it was the same type of thing when we were kids. Maybe it was. I don't know. But yeah, for sure.
I think that it's yes and no to what you just said. There wasn't necessarily a label for anxiety like there is now. There wasn't as much research on it. And so you've got a kid that has a bad home life, back in 1992. You've got a kid that has a bad home life and they're a little jumpy and, they act out. Well, none of that was going to be called anxiety. It was, oh, that poor kid just has a bad home
Their
life,
situation.
But now we know we can look and say that, yes, we can look at it and say, okay, this kid is struggling and we're seeing some of the signs of, either adolescent depression or just anxiety. But something else that I think we should say or make note of is that when I think back to happy times, like any happy moment as a child, if my mom was happy, I was happy.
Right.
Well, if I thought my mom was scared, like if there was, I remember for some reason there was a lot more tornado warnings, I feel like, where we live as
You're right.
kids. We don't have, and I always remember thinking, oh man, we're in the red. I heard Mom, we're in the red zone. And if she was acting nervous, well, what happened? I would act nervous. I would start feeling it. So it's contagious. If I am feeling anxious at home and I am irritable because of that anxiety that I have not dealt with from the day, I'm irritable. Well, my irritable mood then wears off on my family. And so as adults, if we don't deal with this stuff, if we don't take care of what we can take care of or let go of things we can't control, then it's just a ripple effect. And so we don't want to send our kids to school carrying anxiety because we are carrying anxiety. And again, I know that kids do have anxiety. And is it because of increased, we have screens in front of us all the time. Technology is amazing, but it's also almost a curse. Our brains are stimulated constantly. And so I'm sure all of that has a part in anxiety for teenagers, children, adults, elderly. But just knowing that as a parent and as an adult that my anxiety affects those that I love means that I've got to do something. I have to have self-control. And again, I can't say it enough. The saying that everybody says, let go and let God. But really, I can't control half of the things I'm worried about. I don't know if I'm going to have cancer in 15 years. I mean, that's a really dumb thing to worry about.
Right.
And what can I do about something, about a silly worry like that? Well, take care of myself right now. Eat healthy, exercise. And those are things that you can actually do anyway to help prevent anxiety.
And I know you're surprised, but I have a quote that goes with that. Worry doesn't empty tomorrow of its sorrow. It empties today of its strength. Author unknown.
Yes. It's so true. It steals from your day, and it steals from the time with whatever it is that you're doing during your day, your job, you're spending time with your kids. If we don't take care of it, and again, I'm guilty of it. I worry a lot, and I don't always practice the things that I know I need to, but I do know that I'm not where I was 7 years ago. And
Right.
and if you don't start taking care of it, it does just, it builds and builds and builds. And you get to that valley, not a valley, it's a pit, like you're down.
And I think as women and as friends, and kind of going back to checking in on your people and being there for people, I think that becomes such a help with anxiety. I know the people that I can shoot a text to saying, like, feeling this way, whatever, and I can honestly know that I'm going to get back, a little bit of, reassurance that, everything's cool, everything's okay. I have that circle of people that will be there for me. And so just even checking in on people, I think circling back to that point that we've made in the past of, how much can that help people who are dealing with anxiety or depression to have somebody that they can, like you said, that doesn't heighten that anxiety, that doesn't make it worse, but that can calm the anxiety for them and help them cope as well. Here's the thing too, as women, we do that more often, but men don't really do that. And as I worry about that sometimes, our dads, our husbands, my male child, I worry about that with the men in our lives, because as women, yes, it is scientifically proven women are more affected by anxiety than men. But is it that, or is it that we just talk about it more? You know what I mean? And I worry a little bit about the men in my life because they don't talk about it and they don't cope with it. And I worry about their health and I worry about them. So something to bring up.
Yes, I think that it is an unspoken like rule for a lot of men, a generalized rule that is very false, that they think that by saying that they are feeling anxious or depressed somehow takes away from their masculinity, and it doesn't. And I also think that from a young age, men are expected to just deal with it. And women, some women too, some children too, but in general, men don't deal with it. They brush it under the rug. And so, well, their physical health, cholesterol, blood pressure, they just quit taking care of themselves. And that's not good. It affects it affects everything. It affects your marriage. It affects your
mood,
mortality. I mean, yes, it's hard, but it's okay to come home and talk to your wife or your husband or a friend, or if they've got a group of friends. I wish they would, and say, God, they don't have to have a mushy session of sobbing their eyes out, but they could say, hey, I'm struggling. Like, my job is slammed right now. And I'm thankful for that. But that means that I've always got a customer complaining, or the phone never stops ringing. And I don't know. I think I wish that there wasn't that. I don't think it takes away from a man being masculine in any way, but they just need to know that they have to take care of themselves too. And it's okay to have feelings and to talk about them.
Absolutely. I just thought I had to throw that out there because we talk so much about women's health and about women at this age and at this season. But at this season, what I'm noticing is truly the men in my life do not cope with that at all. And so Just thought I'd throw that out there because it affects everyone, not just women. Women just are bigger about it, I guess. We take it more on. We're more emotional about it. So
yes. And it's almost expected, you know. So, and it doesn't have to be expected either. I think that either way, it's either dumbed down or overplayed instead of, if we could just not let it get to either of those, finding the balance.
absolutely.
And for some reason, the entire world is out of balance. And that's something that if each one of us would focus on, let me do my part, take care of me. My children can see that I'm taking care of myself. So the cycle of this new overstressed, anxious life doesn't have to keep going. Because don't you think, I wish things were simple. And I think it's so much of that we have made them not simple.
In a world where it should be simple, right? Because technology and everything was supposed to simplify things, right? But in fact, like, we've overcomplicated everything. Absolutely, I get that.
And it's just set these strange, unrealistic expectations for
absolutely everything.
You have to do this and this and this to be a good mom. We've talked about social media and all of that, and it's funny, it feels like social media and technology is probably one of the things that seems to cause a lot of the struggles that yeah. And I want to say something else about in the evenings that I do that has helped me. And it is listening to either the Calm app and finding there's all kinds of different stuff on there. Or I really just like classical instrumental music. And it really does puts me in a sleepier mood. Or sleepier mood. Is sleepy a mood? No. I feel sleepier.
Sleepy is a mood.
And I definitely get calmer. Okay, well, it puts me in the sleepy mood and it does relax me. And I do sleep much better if I just do that rather than watching one of my shows that I think that I deserve to get to watch.
We've just recently started the Calm app as well. We like the Rain on Leaves, I think is the one we listen to the most. I think it's the Rain on Leaves or something like that. It's kind of white noise-ish to me. But yeah, the Calm app has helped a lot for both of us. For sure. I would recommend it.
The boys, my two boys also use it and they love it as well. And we have found some weird ones, but we also like thunderstorm, not terrifying thunderstorm, but it's just a nice little.
Yeah. What doesn't help is looking at my phone before bed. Calm app, not looking at my phone before bed.
Yes. Not scrolling. Or just anything. Everything's at our fingertips and we can Google anything and everything, and that's not the answer either.
So, which I think this is something that will circle around to and continue to spiral, because I feel like it is something that we do need to work on, because I know I not only carry the weight of my worries, but if my kids are worried or if my husband's worried, I carry everyone's worry instead of like you said, letting it go. So, and that can get really heavy.
It does get heavy. And the reason it's heavy is because we're not strong enough. We weren't built to carry those things. And so putting into practice every single day, giving it up, not accepting it. So everything basically is what we've talked about is in the serenity prayer, which is God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Letting go and letting God. And if we'll just do that, reach out to our friends, make sure that we know that we can't fix things for them or our loved ones, but we can pray with them. We can help them find and seek the help that they need. And just being aware of the people around us and being kind, right?
Absolutely. Just 100% what you said. Just being kind. That's so important because your kindness can make or break somebody who is going through something for sure. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed or found this episode helpful in some way or relatable. And remember that you are loved. You are not alone, whether you're falling, skipping, hopping, jumping, sliding into 40, over 40, way past 40. We are here. You aren't alone. And we hope you have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in with us on today's episode of Falling into 40. You can find us on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts.